Welcome guys, and we are on the 13th game of Gary Kasparov's masterpieces, and once again this is the second game. This game was played between Gary Kasparov and Anatoly Karpov, and this was also in the World Championship match. If you see my previous game, the 12th one, it is also between the same players, but this time the World Championship match is in 1990, uh, and it is the second round match, and this is the Spanish game closed variation. And the lesson that is taught in this game is the powerful stare of the bishop. Uh, the bishop is a long range weapon and it works very well when it has a clear view. When the board is open, bishops are much more powerful than knights, which are confined to small areas. As pieces disappear from the board, it is increasingly useful to have a bishop. A bishop can appear to be useless just sitting around like a tall pawn, defending squares. But remember, the sleepy bishop can wake up and turn into a fearsome weapon. It may seem as though the pawns will never get out of the way, but circumstances can change, especially when it is part of your attacking strategy. Kasparov's Spanish bishop wandered the queenside before settling down to a long stay at the b1, far away from black's camp. The bishop seemed to be doing nothing but protecting a pawn at e4. Later the f pawn gets to the f5 and the bishop's view was solidly blocked. However, late in the game, the e-pawn advanced, the f pawn was exchanged for the enemy g-pawn, and the power of the bishop was revealed. Without moving the bishop helped to finish off the game. Okay, let's go through the game, and it is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5 and a6, bishop b4, knight f6 and castling, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, c3, castles, h3, bishop b7 and d4, rook e8, knight bd2, bishop f8, a4. In this game, the most popular plan is used, bringing the pawn to a4 and creating tension at b5. And after h6 and bishop c2, here also the most common plan d5 is also seen. The knight has fled to c8, a5, e7 and even a7. But white has a slightly better game in all cases because the pieces are better able to get to useful squares. The light square bishop won't be too effective, but everyone else is. E takes d4, c takes d4, knight b4 and bishop b1. This position has been reached hundreds of times and it isn't clear how black should proceed. Most of the time black advances the c5 pawn to c5, but here Karpov chooses a rare alternative. Remember guys, Karpov is the black player here, and after b takes a4, rook takes a4, a5, rook a3. The rook lift is characteristics of this variation. The rook can double up on the e file or move to g3 after the knight gets out of the way. It also helps protect d3 should black try to sink a knight there. It might even go to c3, causing some discomfort at c7. Rook a6. Black's rook lift is not quite so impressive, but it's still useful. White can't chase the rook away with his bishop because the d3 square is still covered. knight h2. This is the most popular move and also characteristic of for the line. The knight will come to g4 and the rook can slide to g3. There is also an option of supporting the pawn at e4 by playing f3, especially if black shifts the queen to a8, g6, f3. This is a paradoxical move, but a great one. The rook at a3 is cut off from the king side, but the attack is going to take place on the dark squares. This was tremendously original play by Kasparov. And after queen d7, this is where Karpov goes wrong. The move is too passive. Black needed to follow up on the last move by placing the bishop at g7. The queen is more likely to be useful in the corner at a8. The moves can be the black could have gone bishop g7 and after knight c4 then queen a8, defends the a pawn and supports action on the diagonal. Kasparov's choice of f3 ensures that there is no danger to the pawn at e4. The bishop at b1 can come to life after the e pawn advances. In that case, we see another benefit of the pawn at f3. It shields the pawn at g2, which might otherwise be vulnerable. After knight c4, queen b5. This is a rather exposed square for the queen. Again, it would have been safer defending the pawn from a8, but it is too late for now. Rook c3, bishop c8, bishop b3, c6, and queen c1. The king side attack is about to be launched. King h7, knight g4, knight g8. Karpov should have exchanged the knights at g4. The pawn at h6 isn't secure as it seems. There are 3 defenders and 3 attackers to be sure, but one of those defenders, the bishop at f8, has duties at d6. The pawn at d6 loses his defender. So after bishop takes h6, bishop takes, and knight takes h6, knight takes h6. There is this fork, knight takes d6 fork, and after queen b6, knight takes e8, queen takes d4 check, and king h1, queen d8. Now the knight is trapped. Karpov will have 2 knights for the rook and pawn. Now rook d1, queen takes c8 and queen g5. The weakness of the back rank is the focus of Kasparov's attention. Rook a7, defending f7, and here even bishop d7 would block the access to d8, but it can be handled by f4, f5, and then rook c5, and the rook threatens to come to e5 and then to e7. Rook d8, queen e6, f4, and then bishop a6, and if bishop a6, if at all instead of bishop a6, rook d7 is played, and the computer shows f5 here. Bishop a6 and then f5. Now the distant bishop at b1 has become powerful. Queen e7, and then queen d2, dominating the d file. Queen e5, queen f2, and the rook is attacked. Queen e7, queen d4. Here queen e7 is shown as a blunder. Now queen d4 and knight g8. Kasparov now opens a line for the fire for his bishop, and the rook that he lifted to c3 turns into a ravenous monster. e5, knight d5, f takes g6, f takes g6, and rook takes c6. Now after queen takes d8, and there is queen takes a7, and knight de7, rook takes a6, queen d1 check, queen g1, and after queen d2, queen f4. And here Kasparov resigned. The game could have gone like after king g7 and bishop d3 and queen takes b2, then queen f4, queen b3, bishop c4, and queen b8, rook e8, rook takes a5, and knight, even queen f8 could come here, and then I think it's no use here. White is easily winning. So Kasparov resigned on the 44th move after queen f1. I hope you would have enjoyed the game, guys. We will be looking at the next game between Kasparov and Kramnik in 94. Thank you all.